Good morning, all. Welcome back to the Celtic Way. I am your host, John McGinley. I'm joined by Tony Haggerty. We're here to chat through all the latest Celtic news and views ahead of a weekend of Celtic action at Celtic Park, Tony. Celtic are back from Portugal. They're back in Scotland. They're preparing for this game against Newcastle United tomorrow for the Adidas Trophy. I think it's been dubbed another piece of silverware to add to the collection this summer.
Yes, so another one, hopefully to add to the peculiarities of trophies that abide in the Celtic trophy room. Yeah, can't wait. I'm really looking forward to it, John. Really looking forward to seeing Celtic playing at Celtic Park again and see what kind of crowd they get and decent opposition in Newcastle, the Carabao Cup holders, and a healthy contingent coming up from Newcastle as well. So I don't think it'll be the friendly match that everyone thinks it'll be, John. I think there'll be an edge to this, so it'll be good. Unlike the other night, I don't know about you, but I enjoyed the fare that Celtic served up the other night.
Mm-hmm.
And I made the point, I'm not a lover of pre-season friendlies at all, but I really liked what Celtic produced the other night, and I just hope they can continue that into the Newcastle game. But we'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll talk a bit more about Newcastle later in the show. First, we'll talk about the transfer latest because there's a new transfer link, Tony. There's a fairly excited transfer link. We've been waiting for a while. I think the last substantial transfer news at Celtic is the Shin Yamada deal, which we're expecting to go through literally at any moment today. We believe that Shin Yamada's travelled from Japan to the UK to put the finishing touches. Brendan Rodgers has all but confirmed it's happening. He's confirmed that he will go through his medical. So we're expecting that announcement at any time. But we also know Brendan Rodgers is continuing to look at attacking reinforcements, both in the wing, potentially in the striker position, depending on who goes out on loan. I think everyone's all summer longed for a star striker coming in and really getting everyone a bit excited. Now, there's no suggestion that Celtic are close to bringing that addition in, but there was a transfer report from Romania last night. Romanian outlet reporting that Celtic had, tabled an offer for the Cluj star striker Louis Muntenu. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm probably not. He's an exciting player. He's got an exciting profile, Tony. He scored 25 goals in all competitions last season. Celtic were said to have submitted an offer of around €8 million for him. Unfortunately, Cluj are looking for a lot more, which seems to be a familiar theme when Celtic go in for a player. But it should also be noticed that, players don't leave the Romanian league for massive fees too often, and Cluj, I think their record income fee is in the kind of the range that Celtic would be able to buy at. So that doesn't necessarily mean that this won't progress forward. It seems to be the initial beginnings of Celtic interest in this player, and there's various clubs around Europe also interested in the striker. But having a look at this guy, looking at his profile, looking at some of his highlights, far more the type of first-team player that you're hoping Celtic are linked with this summer.
Yeah, I think that's an exciting one, isn't it, John? Munteanu, I think we maybe pronounce it. Maybe.
Okay.
Somebody can maybe correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that's the way I would see it. But listen, John, I think as opening bids go, that's not bad one by Celtic, just to test the water. And I think they might go back in, because I think they like the look of this guy, and that is the striker that Brendan Rodgers wants. It's funny, I spoke to John Hartson yesterday, and it's on the site today. You can have a look at that, guys. John Hartson was saying the same thing in response to Adam Weeder saying about 30 goals. John Hartson said that's all fine and well, but he still thought that Celtic needed another striker. This is the one that excites you. And I'm like you, Romanian clubs don't often command top dollar for their prize assets. And I think that's just Cluj at it, because they know Celtic have got money. But I think there could be a deal struck here, John, and they could meet somewhere in the halfway. Because I think Cluj want a ridiculous fee from, don't they? They want €15 million, is that right? Is that right?
That's the figure in the Romanian press. It's €50 million, which would be well beyond Celtic's record transfer, but not too far beyond. I think it's something like £12 million or something. Right. It's not out with the total realms of the possibility. I'd be very surprised if Celtic are paying that kind of money for this player. I think it's more, the transfer link is more to me that Celtic are still shopping in a more expensive market for players in these attacking positions. That's what it indicates to me. Even if this doesn't come off or it's not followed through on, I think it's an indication that there's still some juice left in this window for Celtic.
Yeah, without a doubt, John. And listen, that you said there you looked at him, checked out his stats, and he looks an exciting player, and he looks like the prototype striker that Celtic want. Now, whether they follow up with that with a second offer remains to be seen, but I think they've tested the water with that one, and then I think both clubs will need to get realistic on their valuation. And as you say, Celtic could afford €50 million, but they won't pay that. So there seems to be I think there's a middle ground to be had here, John, and if Celtic really want him, they will go and pursue him. And you could find maybe, I don't know, €9-10 million being spent on Montiano if Celtic really decide that that's the guy that they want. But it sort of came from left field, didn't it? It was a Romanian outlet last night, wasn't it? Very late.
Yeah.
Late last night. So I think maybe they've been trying to conduct that on the QT, but obviously somebody's let it known to a Romanian outlet and they put it out there.
And I mean, we might get some UK side corroboration on this throughout the day. We don't know how this is going to develop. But it's worth talking about, I think, purely because it's the kind of player that Celtic fans, I think, have been waiting for to be linked with for a few weeks now. So, if nothing else, there's a wee bit of a transfer rumour that people can grab onto and have a bit of hope on, which I really think has been missing for large chunks of the summer so far. So we'll see how it develops. As I say, it's hardly in the final throes or anything. It's not going to go through imminently or anything like that. But it's an interesting name out there and worth discussing, and I think fans will be discussing this guy over the next few days. So I guess we'll have to wait and see how it transpires.
Yeah, I think everybody will just be checking out his stats and his highlights reel, John, if they can find such a thing on the internet, but you usually can, can't you? So yeah, it is a name that excites people. He scored a lot of goals, and he looks like someone, as you say, that would fit the striker bill. Gets people talking, gets people excited, because the last time we spoke, I think it was Monday, we were talking about that transfer spark, weren't we? Waiting for the window to, spark and excite the Celtic fans. They're now starting to get a wee bit excited about this kind of calibre of player. They're obviously excited about Nygren as well, what he served up the other night against Sporting. So yeah, things are starting to slowly but surely possibly fall into place, John.
Well, we'll see. We know what Celtic are like in these moments, and until it's done, I'm not celebrating anything. Tam saying here, morning all, looking at the stats and the level he's playing at, I think Montiano is a must-buy if we insist on another striker. But I must say, Brodge, as he puts it, writing off Yamada already rubs me up the wrong way. I'll push back on that a little bit. I think, we'll look at Brendan Rodgers' comments on Yamada. I'd hardly say they were glowing comments, and he did put that kind of little bit of distance between himself and the sign-in in the way that he's done with Nakamura. I wouldn't say that he's written Yamada off. I think Yamada will get a fair chance and a fair shake at Celtic. Much in the way that Nakamura's been getting in pre-season, in all fairness to Brendan Rodgers. But again, it is, you do want Rodgers to be excited about the players that are coming to Celtic, and he didn't necessarily seem that excited about Yamada. I wouldn't say he's written him off. I wouldn't say he's kind of slagged him off or anything, but he didn't seem that enthused, and I think that kind of rankles a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think Brendan Rodgers, Yamada's coming in, but Brendan Rodgers has a plan for him, and it's clearly not an immediate first team plan. But as you said there, he said the same about Nakamura. He gave him his debut against Cork, and he came out and he said, first to say, he surprised me, and then he was asked, could he, fill a first team berth, and he said, well, we'll need to see will I assess him moving forward. So I think the same applies to Shun Yamada as well. He'll come in, he'll have a look at him and see where he is in terms of his levels. I think that's fair. But yeah, could he have been more enthusiastic about him? Yeah, he probably could have. But I think he's like you and I, John. He's been realistic. At this moment in time, he doesn't see this guy walking straight into the team. That could change. When Yamada comes in, signs, and then he has a look at him. So, and I think everybody's the same. They'll make a judgment when they see them with their own eyes. Highlights reels can be great, can't they? Make a player look fantastic. Stats can be manipulated to suit, make them look great on paper. So I'm always of the opinion, John, I'll decide with my own eye test, my 4-eye test. People keep reminding me that I wear glasses. That's fair enough. But yeah, I'll always look at a player when I see them first, and it's all those behaviours and idiosyncrasies and, things that you look at. They look naturally a footballer. Are they comfortable? And I think that's why the Celtic supporters have been really impressed with Nygren. Just he looks a comfortable footballer. And I know it's only a small sample size. I get all that, but I'm talking about looking like a natural footballer and doing the basics right and impressing, and that's what you want to see. You say to somebody, if you spend, and it's not been a massive financial outlay in Nygren, but he's come in and hit the ground running and really impressed, and he is the player that you think, wow, this guy, given a full season in a Celtic team, could improve you greatly.
JJ McGarvey asking, is Yamada a speed demon? Saw somewhere he made his top speed record in the J League. Can't find it now. Yamada is a quick player. He is a quick player. Brendan Rodgers saying that he's going to bring intensity into the team. Intensity and pressure, as he put it, Brendan Rodgers. So Yamada is of that type that you would kind of expect a forward from the J League to be. So that I think that is a positive, and because I think, when Rodgers was talking the other night about Odsonne Edouard and he won't be going for Odsonne Edouard, he talked about the player fitting into the Celtic team and the Celtic setup. What I would say about Yamada is he does seem to have a profile that would at least suit the way Celtic play, which is always so important and more important in modern football than it's ever been. Less individuals in football now. It's more about how you function as part of the unit. And what I would say is Yamada looks like he's someone who could function as part of the Celtic attacking unit.
Yeah, without a doubt. And listen, see if you're a speed merchant, a speed king, call them what you like. There's an attribute right away. And if you're a forward player and you possess that, of course you're going to utilise that. You only need to look at Dijsselmeyer to see how well Celtic have utilised that. So if Yamada is of similar ilk, then he will get a chance, John. He will get a chance to prove that and show that speed and show that game intelligence that he's picked up from the J League and show Brendan Rodgers that he can force his way into the side. So yeah, and as you say, and I think it was important as well that Rodgers nailed the Edward stuff for me, so that it doesn't drag on and become. Yeah. You said we were talking about that the other day, and you thought it's going to be a name that's constantly linked with Celtic. He's nailed that now, which I quite liked. I was like, fine, there's no dubiety there. He's not going back to Edward. And I think he is. He's thinking for the betterment of the team. Always that team ethic, come into a setup where, the culture is winning, but everybody has to be on the same page. You're part of, he always calls it the Celtic family, big outside, but it's small within. It's a small group of players that are going to have to play all season and fit into the system that he wants to play. So I'm all for that. And he clearly sees Yamada as fitting into that system at some point, but maybe not just yet.
Brown Warrior saying here, Celtic sent Maeda a CERN for testing last summer, and the report back stated he broke the large hadron collider lap record. He must have been taking time off from being I think his second job's the T-1000 in the Terminator 2 film, the way Maeda goes about his business. Did you see him flying into a challenge against Sporting the other night? It's just, it's not. I'm not criticising him, but just the way he chases down players and the way he chases the ball, like that was a friendly, and he wasn't playing it like it was a friendly, Tony.
It was an agricultural challenge, John. I'll say that in inverted commas, wasn't it? It was just, I killed myself laughing at that. And then also there was the clip where he came off the park and he was doing press up. Celtic's version of Iron Man, isn't he? He's just always on the go. He's always busy. He's always doing something. But yeah, that challenge, I did burst out laughing when I saw that. I thought, Dyson, what are you doing? It's a friendly. I get it. You don't have to be full pelt all the time, but it's just in his makeup, John. That's what makes him the player that he is and the cult hero that he is for moments like that.
Yeah. So we've got a thing in the title of the video, Benjamin Nygren hype. What's that all about? Well, Brendan Rodgers has been speaking about Benjamin Nygren to the press from the Portugal training camp. I'd imagine he gave these comments the other night after the match. There have been sometimes comments that are held back in the media and kind of come out a couple of days later. So what did he have to say about Benjamin Nygren after his, he got 45 minutes against Australia and then he got around an hour, I think, against Sporting on Wednesday night. Rodgers said, I'm really excited about him. He's a talent, but it's about how these boys adapt to the pressure of being at Celtic. So far, he has done very well. He moves so well. He's fluid. He can play one or two touches. I want to improve the intensity of his pressing, but that will come. He covers the ground so easily. He can take the ball up the pitch, and he has a lovely deft pass in him. He's a young player, but he's also a leader. He's got a profile. He's got authority. He was obviously captain for his former club, so he has great leadership qualities. He was coming to the end of his contract, and we were looking to maximise the value, so he's clearly worth a lot more than that. Rodgers likes Nygren, and this is what we like to hear from Brendan Rodgers, how excited he is about working with a player and progressing a player. I think that's a fair point about his pressing. What I kind of noted about Nygren, he's very, very good in his positioning and helping Celtic play out of the press on the opposite side of the ball. Yeah, I think he could get closer to players at times. He was quite distant from the sporting players at times. And to make it at Celtic in that midfield, you certainly need to be a lot closer. The Scottish Premiership can be a very physical league, so that is something we need to see from Benjamin Nygren. But all signs are pointing to this guy has a bit about him, and we definitely want to see more.
Oh, without a doubt, John. I said, whatever day I was on with Ryan, I said, if you're asking me your starting midfield trio for St Mirren, I said it would be Nygren, McGregor and Hatate. And I think most Celtic supporters would say that off the bat right now, because they've been very impressed with him. Yet, I think the pressing is something he can clearly work on, and he'll get to grips with that, especially in Scottish football. But just looked every inch the footballer, John. And I mentioned to you, and I mentioned it the other night as well, about the player that I thought Celtic had signed when I was told about him. And I mentioned Andy Tom, and nothing has made me change my mind on that, John. Andy Tom, he strikes me as being somebody who...
Would you not say Tom? He's more of a second striker, though. Almost, he was quite advanced for a lot of his time at Celtic, wasn't he?
Yeah, but even the other night, Nygren getting a couple of advanced positions. I think he had a side foot shot that was charged down. I think he went for accuracy rather than putting his foot through it, and I quite liked that. I thought, okay, I've seen a bit here that and he got forward a lot as well. There was a couple of times he tried to cut back and to other players, and it just wasn't on the money. But it's just the way he did things, John. He was gliding that across that pitch, and I thought, yep, he could be a real asset. And I think he could be one of those guys who plays behind a front two as well, creating and scoring once he finds his rhythm and he finds his feet. And as I say, nothing's made me change my mind in terms of what I think Celtic could be getting with Nygren, and Tom was the one that immediately springs to mind. I'll gladly change my mind over that in the course of time if I see something different, but I think that's in my head at the minute.
I think we might see more of him in that role as Rodgers gets more comfortable with his pressing ability, because as we know, the other night, Rio Hatate very high up the pitch and given licence to press the ball very high up the pitch. And we know that Hatate can be good at that. He can be an aggressive little player at times, which we like about him. Someone coming in with a comment here, Solid Raven Ocelot, saying, by the way, can we express the importance of keeping Hatate and getting the best of him? I'd hate to lose his creativity. I mean, I concur with that. I mean, for me, for a long time, it felt like Hatate might be one of the ones that's maybe leaving this summer. I don't know. That just felt like a perception that was growing around the support and kind of little bits of rumours here and there. But Hatate looks pretty motivated, looks a firm part of the furniture at the moment. You want to keep Rio Hatate this summer.
Oh, without a doubt. And what I did like the other night, John, was I thought Rio Hatate was more relaxed because he had Nygren. And a creative Nygren takes that onus off Hatate to always be that player who's threading the ball through or making the killer passes. And I thought he relaxed on that, knowing that he was there beside him and he had someone that he could tune in with, because some of the best stuff Celtic played the other night involved the three midfielders, McGregor as well. And that's what I really like, because they got the ball up that park with speed and purpose and accuracy. And I was like, right, this is... And I think if Hatate can relax, I said it the other night to Ryan, a relaxed Hatate for me is just... he's not just a luxury player, but he's a luxury player in terms of that. You look at him and you think, do you know what? You can play. And if he can breathe a bit more easily, doesn't feel the need to have to be doing everything, that whenever he does pick up the ball, then he can make a difference. because he's got another player beside him that can do the same. And once Nygren learns how to, track back and do all that kind of stuff, and the rough and tumble of Scottish football, we'll get two brilliant assets there, John. And yeah, for me, he has to stay, Hatate, because you saw how much Celtic missed him in the cup final. But he now has another player who can create and can probably score like him. I like to McGregor as well. And I just think, right, the big thing for me now is how's Engels going to react to that? Because that's going to push Engels on now, thinking, right, this guy's coming in. Because at this moment in time, it would be Engels that would lose his place in the midfield, if you're asking me right now. And obviously, Bernardo's there as well. You've got McCowan too. So you've got 6 midfielders, John, there competing for 3 places, which is magic. I think that can only go for Celtic.
I think because over the last 6 months we've become so used to Celtic playing without many midweek matches, it's important to note that in the start of the season, for certainly the first 6 months, Celtic are going to be playing a game every 3 days almost from August right through to late January, February. So I think the fact that you have a lot of players isn't a detriment. I don't think Engels is going to be sitting on the bench. I think he's going to get plenty of starts and plenty of appearances, because the reality is that Rodgers does like to rotate his team when there is a high load in the players, and they are playing Saturday to Wednesday or whatever the kind of makeup is depending on which tournament Celtic qualify for in Europe. So yeah, I think it's necessary to have a really good stock of midfield players. And Paulo Bernardo hasn't played much, as a starter over the last few months. But again, into the new season, he'll get plenty of starts. Engels will get plenty of starts. If Hatate's still here, he'll get plenty of starts. Arguably needs someone else, to be honest, in that kind of number 6 role that Callum McGregor performs at times. But that's maybe adding a cherry on top of the transfer pudding.
But I'm looking at that, John, as well, and I'm thinking, Callum McGregor's game time will need watched as well, because he is getting older. So
yeah, he's already played a lot of football this summer.
And again, Engels can go in there, so that could be quite a dynamic midfield. Engels, Nygren, and Hatate as well. So this isn't a slight on Engels, because I just think a lot of Celtic supporters feel that they need a bit more from Engels. But as you rightfully pointed out there, there'll be an ultra marathon again of games, so he will feature a lot. So I think you could manage Callum McGregor as well in that sense, and Engels.
If we have the right player, Tony, because I thought at times when McGregor was out of the team last year, Celtic were notably a level below.
Again, the onus would be on Engels then, if he is filling in the Callum McGregor role, to step up. And I think a midfield of Engels, Hatate and Nygren, a lot of energy there, a lot of dynamism there for me, so again, I would always have Callum McGregor in the team if he can, but it's noticeable that he's coming, he's nearing the twilight of his career, so sometimes his game time might need to be monitored. But I'm liking the look of that. That's those 6 players, that glut of players who are fighting away and will get game time and will want to impress. You know me, I'm always the opinion you can never get enough good players in your football team, and especially in that midfield area. So I'm a wee bit more comforted by that, and comforted by the fact that Nygren, looks like somebody who can be a right asset. And Hatate, you said you were maybe priming yourself for a summer of him leaving, but he seems to have grasped in it as well and thought, you know what, I'm here, let's do this, and seems to be refreshed from and looking to produce some of his top form coming back from injury. So it augurs well for me personally.
Kasper Schmeichel kind of asked about his motivation going into this season. As we know, the perception around Schmeichel is that he's kind of pushing for a last World Cup, which is next year, still to go through the qualifying campaign of that, of course. He was asked about what he has left to achieve in the game, and what he said was very Kasper Schmeichel-like, of course. He said, that's not my mindset. I haven't done everything. There's still a lot to accomplish. in all honesty, I never think differently to that. I've never been the type of guy to think in restrictions or limitations. At the moment, I'm just loving playing football. I'm living what I always dreamed of doing since I was a kid. If I can't enjoy this, then what can I enjoy? It's wrong to say I feel privileged to do this job because I sacrificed a lot to get here, but a lot of people in the world would do anything to be in the position that I'm in. It would be a waste for me not to enjoy it. When you get to a certain part of your career, you know you haven't got forever, so you enjoy it more. I cherish every single day I go out on the pitch and jump on the grass and catch balls and dive around like a lunatic. It's a good life. I also love being part of a club where the culture is so driven by winning all the time. That really motivates me every single day to get up to it, to make sure we uphold those standards and strive for more. As long as I'm enjoying that, and as long as that hunger or desire is there, then I'll keep on playing. But I'm not the type of person to say that I'm going to do this or going to do that. I take everything as it comes. At this stage of my career, nothing's ever guaranteed. It never is at any point. One injury can end your career at this stage. So it's all about being here, contributing, enjoying every single minute. The only way I do that is by being part of a winning team. So Schmeichel making clear he's very motivated for the season ahead. I think he looked fit. He looked a little bit leaner, I think I would suggest, on Wednesday night. Looks like he's had a good summer, a good productive summer, and I thought he was sharp on the ball. And he made a pretty good save down to his low right-hand side. I wouldn't say it was a world-class save or anything, but it's the kind of save that you need Schmeichel to make. And again, in possession, as I said, he was crucial in bypassing the Sporting press.
Yeah. See, if you hadn't told me who said those words, John, I would have guessed. You said they were very Schmeichel-like. And he looked like a player that, doesn't want to finish. Some guys feel at 39 they might be winding down. One, he was leaner. Two, yeah, he made a save that you would expect him to make, but it's those behaviours, John. He punched it away. Did you notice that he got a right good handle? Yeah. Pushed it away. None of this pushing it out to possibly an incoming striker or a player pushing it away. He's just too clever by far, and also his distribution was great. He's never really lost that ability to distribute the ball, but there was one move in particular where it started with Schmeichel and it ended with a Celtic chance. It was because Schmeichel was clever enough. I think whatever he did, there was about 3 players he took out with the pass that he played, and then Celtic just made their way up the field. And I just thought, right, brilliant, And you wrote an article the other day about who's the starter, Schmeichel or Sinisalo, and it's on the website. You guys can check it out. You were basing it off, I think it was Huddle Stats, wasn't it? Was that right?
It's StatsBomb, yeah.
StatsBomb, yeah. Mm-hmm. And but the conclusion to that was that Schmeichel was the starter, wasn't it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, for me, Schmeichel's an undoubted starter, and I liked Sinisalo. I've got no issue with him at all, and I think he did come in and perform well, and I'm happy to have him as backup, and I'm happy to have him there playing cup games. Like, I want to see all of that. But for me, there was a little bit of an overreaction to the Scottish Cup final, and the mistake that Schmeichel made was poor. But the work that he did for Celtic last season was outstanding. Schmeichel was Celtic's best signing last summer. Like, there's no doubt about that in my mind. Like, he was easily Celtic's best signing. And I think we'll continue to get good performances out of him this season at a high level. And again, the decline will come. I said this the other day. The decline will come. Even Schmeichel's referencing that there. At some point, there is a decline for a player in advancing years. But I don't see any sign of it with Schmeichel yet, to be quite frank with you. Again, the error was so high profile in such a big moment that people will now have that in their head when they're forming an opinion on Schmeichel, and he'll be more scrutinised, I think, in the early part of this season than he would have been if he hadn't made that error. But I've got no issue with Schmeichel whatsoever. I think he's Celtic's number one, and rightly so.
Me neither, Johnny. The problem with the high-profile error in the Scottish Cup final, as you've just said there, it's been used as a stick to beat him with. And it will continue to be used as a stick to beat him with whenever he falls below a certain bar. It'll be, it's the same guy that cost Celtic the treble. But for me, Kasper Schmeichel was outstanding. That's the one real mistake I can honestly, say he made last season. In my mind, I can't remember another one. And, again, it was just unfortunate that it came in a game of that magnitude. It happens. You move on. Celtic didn't win the treble. Fine. We're all over it. But I certainly won't be using it as a stick to beat Kasper Schmeichel. He's been absolutely terrific. And what I seen the other night, he's no intention of relaxing and winding down his career, and this is his swan song. The way he's talking there, he's going to be like Dino's off and play into his 40s, and I hope he does. Because I also think that what he spoke about there, that winning culture, that winning mentality, that keeps Schmeichel young. Always on your guard, always on your mettle. People say, and he's been asked before in matches, and say things like, you were a virtual spectator. You should see him bristle when he's asked those kind of questions. No, I concentrate. I'm in the zone all the time. And if something happens, I need to be there. So he never accepts that it's easy. He's always pushing and he's always striving to do something in a football match, whether it is a so-called easier game, then he wants the clean sheet, and he's always focused. And so I'm delighted. Nobody's more delighted than me. I'm sure Rodgers will be delighted, but I was delighted when they signed Kasper Schmeichel, because I thought, great, there's continuity there in terms of replacing Joe Hart, and you're getting a really good goalkeeper, and you're getting all those years of experience, John, that he's amassed, and he is. Yeah, I think he's a phenomenal goalkeeper. I have to say that.
Yeah. So what we're expecting from Newcastle tomorrow? The Celtic have confirmed that there's going to be 10,000 Newcastle fans there. They'll be taking a big section of that corner and well into the Lisbon Lions stand as well, Tony. It's going to be an interesting atmosphere. We wonder what kind of crowd we'll see from the Celtic side. It's not going to be a full house. I think we should make that clear, but I think there should be still a decent amount of people there to see Celtic, and I think that will generate its own atmosphere. Newcastle, been in Austria all week, as I mentioned, they've got a strong first team squad, I think, in and about the start of their training. I think they had a couple of early friendlies. But like Celtic, I think it was mostly younger players, but now they've got their fuller group back together, and it's going to be a pretty good workout for Celtic again.
Yeah, it's a pity it's not going to be a full house, John. We spoke the other day. It should have been on the season book. A game like that, everybody wants to come in and see the likes of Tierney, see Nygren, anyone else that the manager teams should be playing, But sadly, it's not going to be a full house. But Newcastle bringing 10,000 is brilliant. Fantastic. As I say, I think it'll be a tasty game, John. These, sometimes pre-season affairs can fizzle out, but I think tomorrow will be tasty. I'm looking forward to it. Just looking forward to see how, how the crowd react to Tierney and Nygren and seeing them at home. And I think it'll be a good game. Actually, I think there'll be goals in it, John. I have to say. I don't know in terms of who will win, but I'm certain there'll be goals in it. And I think it'll be a tasty fixture, as I've just said.
And then Celtic are another few days training, and then they're off to Italy for this. They like to do every season this kind of dress rehearsal for a European trip, and I think that's a little bit what the Como Cup is about. Heading off to play Ajax, another really strong test for Celtic. In fairness, I think the level of competition in the friendlies is good. The Portuguese champions, Newcastle, Ajax, these are the types of teams that will want to be playing at this part of the summer. Yeah,
without a doubt, John. I think you kind of look at it's been that slow build up to a crescendo, really, in terms of your friendlies, isn't it? And that's what you want. That's exactly what you want. And I think everybody last season got excited because they played Man City and Chelsea. They won both matches and they played very, very well. I think if they could beat Sporting Lisbon, beat Newcastle, and then beat Ajax, you would get that same kind of feeling again. And, as you're building up to the start of the season, and as we all know, the most important matches for us is the Champions League qualifier. So I think that can give you momentum, John, and it's that calibre of opposition that you want to be playing at this time in your campaign and just building up to the real thing. So, I'm excited to see how they do fare in the next couple of games against Newcastle and Ajax, because that is the kind of standard and calibre of opposition you could possibly face in a qualifier. So treat them like it is a Champions League qualifier and go out there and do the business. Yeah. Thanks for joining us, everyone. There's a lot of people joining us this morning. It's been quite busy this week. We've appreciated all the
all the viewers, if you're new or you're returning or you're just checking us out, then we really appreciate it. Thanks for all your comments in the live chat. Thanks for the comments below. If you intend to leave one, let us know what you're thinking about Celtic's transfer window, what you're thinking about Nygren, what you're thinking about the Newcastle game, and we'll have a look at that. We will have a live show tomorrow for the match, after the Newcastle match. I think it's yourself and Ryan tomorrow, Tony, giving us the review of that one.
I can't wait for that. That'll be great. Just really looking forward to seeing what happens tomorrow at Celtic Park.
Perfect. And yeah, as I say, we'll be back tomorrow. We'll be back on Monday morning as well. Plenty coming up on Celtic Way over the next few days as well. The website, I should say, celticway.co.uk. We've got a look at Nazinho, the left back. We've got a scouting report on him. As Tony just said earlier, we've got an interview with John Hartson on Adam Ida's situation. We've got an in-depth look also at Shin Yamada coming tomorrow as well. So we've got plenty to keep you busy. Tony, I think you had a look at Nakamura as well, just as we're thinking about Japanese players again. You've got a feature coming up on Nakamura's time at Celtic.
Yeah, just to make everybody feel old of a certain vintage. It's 20 years this summer since Nakamura signed for Celtic. John, that can't possibly be 20 years, but it is. And I had a look at that, and I spoke to one of his former teammates who told us what we already know, how good he was. But a nice wee in-depth look at that. We kind of peek behind the curtain and things that he did and all that. So yeah, that'll be up on the site soon. And yeah, it was interesting to do. And as I say, because you lived through that, John,
yeah,
it's very much uppermost in your mind. You just go through the Rolodex in your mind of various free kicks and stuff like that and goals that you scored. I think he scored 36 goals for Celtic, and 20 of them were free kicks. There you go.
I'm glad I could get into another half an hour conversation on Nakamura, but just to put it simply, I'm glad Nakamura is remembered so fondly. I loved him as a player. I thought he was so good for Celtic, and he was appreciated and idolised by plenty of people when he was here, but you also had a lot of detractors when he was here, when he was in Scotland too. You had a lot of criticism from various journalists, opposition fans, some Celtic fans too, that just sometimes didn't quite get what he was offering the team, but he was just an incredible player for me. And over the years, I think that, it's only been positive, in terms of when you think of Nakamura, and I really think that's wanted, because I think for the time he was in Scotland, he was the best player in Scotland when he was here, and I think he was just a fabulous player. I loved watching Nakamura.
I think his legacy has just grown, John.
Yeah, especially that's what I mean. Yeah,
the influx of Japanese players that are coming in now, they owe a debt of gratitude to Nakamura, or just a debt, because he is your original Japanese boy, your trailblazer. He made it possible for these guys to come over to this country and be a success, because they saw what he did and they thought, I like a bit of that. They obviously canvassed his opinion, and he came in a relative unknown, John, from Regina in Italy, and he left a bit of a god, didn't he? Yeah. Just because of his playing ability and what he could do with the football. I mean, that goal against Rangers, the swerving goal with Alan McGregor, genuinely, you thought somebody was in the commentary or his press box with a remote control, because the way he hit it and the dip and the swerve that takes, that's just a player at the peak of his powers, knowing exactly what he's doing in that moment. And he had many moments like that in a Celtic jersey, and everybody points to the Manchester United free kick. Of course they do. Whenever you think of Nakamura, you just think of Edwin van der Sar clutching fresh air. And it makes you smile. There you go. You just smiled, and
yeah, exactly.
Because that's the kind of player he was. But he'd umpteen free kicks like that. He had the chipped goal against Dundee United, which won the goal of the season. Just that skill, that dink, just wonderful. And he'd lots of moments like that which made you smile, and he lifted your team out of the ordinary because he was an extraordinary player. And as I say, his legacy just grows, and I just thought it was something worthwhile doing, speaking to somebody who shared a dressing room with him and telling me all about him.
So I think we'll have that on the site on Sunday, everyone, a feature on Shinsuke Nakamura, so definitely check that out if that sounds of interest to you. I've already done my goodbye, so I'm not going to do the whole thing again, but just thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow, we'll see you on Monday, and enjoy your weekend. Have a great Friday and a great weekend. Goodbye.